I want to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters who help support the channel. Also, I want to say thank you to my Twitch subscribers. Help the channel out by donating or go to patreon.com. Thank you. I'm not usually somebody who's the edgy atheist and shit like that. And I know I've been kind of expanding content and things of that nature. And it's when I see certain shit that doesn't make sense, I have to just respond to the shit. And you guys know that, like, it's certain things that are just fallacies. There are certain things that just people just say. The answer is source. I made it the fuck up. But you see people that just twist and turn and bend and break reality to fit what they needed to fit. And quite literally, guys, I don't understand it. So let's watch this video. And here I'm gonna actually turn on the gaming because we're gaming today. We're gaming today. Shall we? Let's go.
Were the pyramids built before the flood?
There was no universal flood. It didn't happen. It's a lie. It didn't happen. It was a story. It was a source. I made it the fuck up. It is, if you're looking for the floor story in the Bible, it was copied off of a copy off of a copy. It was not a thing that happened. I've just saved you guys a ton of just like, did it happen? No, it didn't happen. Next caller. But this, yeah, sure, let's go.
According to creation scientists, the Great Flood in Noah's day occurred about 2350 BC. And in the
You know what? I'm not trying to stop this so much, but creation scientists, those are, that is just like, that's like logical Republican. Those two words don't go together. But, you know, I guess, let's go.
The Tower of Babel event would have occurred sometime after that, and the Great Pyramids of Giza would have been built.
I was actually watching a video that was talking about the Tower of Babel recently, and I'm going to have to get to that video. I saw it all the way through, so it's not going to be a blind react. But yeah, no, yeah, we're going to get to that too. So let's go.
Built sometime after that. But according to Egyptologists, the Great Pyramids of Giza were built about 2550 BC, about 200 years before the flood. But wait a minute now, how could the Egyptians have built the pyramids a whole 200 years before the flood when the nation of Egypt didn't even exist until after the Tower of Babel?
Because the nation of Egypt existed before what you think the Tower of Babel was, because the Tower of Babel was a story that was just like, I made it the fuck up. Like, it's just made up. It's a story. It's a myth. It's not true. Like, you're just starting a fallacy off with just like, well, I don't believe that this is not true, so I'm going to start from here because reasons. Yeah, you're making it up. It's not real. And I hate to sound like it says just like, oh, it didn't. Like, we actually have science. We have radiocarbon dating. We have, you know, the history of not having a flood in Egypt during the time that the flood was supposed to happen. We have people in all parts of the world, history of cultures that did not experience this global, all-encompassing flood. It didn't happen.
That doesn't make any sense. The Great Pyramids do not have any signs of water damage. If the pyramids were built
because there was no water damage. Like, for real. Because there was no water damage. But let's go.
before the flood and are still standing after the flood, then that would mean the pyramids would have been completely submerged in the floodwaters and should have a significant amount of water damage. But they don't. The Great Pyramids do not have a significant amount of water damage. And so, Since Egyptian history predates Noah's flood and continues on after the flood, unaffected by it, then skeptics say that either a worldwide flood never happened or biblical history must be inaccurate.
No, or it's and a worldwide flood never happened and biblical history is inaccurate. We have proof for this. We literally have proof of this. And I get it. You have your belief that you grew up with and you don't question it because you think that impacts your immortal soul, which nobody has a soul. But I get it. I get it. You were told this is how reality was working, and even though it's more, it's actually noble to question reality versus dealing with the fact that what you believe isn't what you see, is not true. I get it. It's like it's noble to believe that, but it's just the thing. Like Joe said, why not both?
This is heavy duty, Doc.
However, the pyramids are built on top of sedimentary layers which contain fossils. Creation scientists say that these layers were laid down during the flood, which is evidence that the pyramids would have been built after the flood.
Dinosaurs did not live with man. There wouldn't have been dinosaurs. There wouldn't have been trilobites at the same time as humans. We did not exist at the same time in the fossil records. If that's the thing about these creation scientists, they actually take the science of those were there and not how long they've been there, because it would destroy them. Instead of saying like, yo, I believe it's a matter of faith, even though science says this. No, they try to shoehorn science into it. But let's go.
Not before it. Also, the name Egypt in Hebrew is Mizraim. Mizraim is the son of Ham and the grandson of Noah. So clearly the Egyptians are the descendants.
Okay, it sounds as if you're working your way back to like whom? So Egypt. Well, okay, so Egypt used to call it this, and the thing about it is you made it up. You actually started with, hey, of course, this has happened at this particular time, or we want this to be true. So how do we work our way backwards from the conclusion? That's why. And yes, James Brown is obviously the father of soul. The godfather of soul.
Descendants of Noah's grandson. But Noah didn't even begin to have grandsons until after they stepped off the ark. So clearly Egyptian history could not have begun until after the flood.
Well, and they never break down like how, like what gets me is with creation scientists never break down how, they heard the ark is supposed to have so many creatures in it and 8 people were responsible for like taking care of 7,000 animals, the crap and the just feeding the animals, like, and they just, instead of just saying because magic, they try to come up with scientific evidence. Like, you're going a long way. You're basing everything based on the fact that the flood being real and the things that happen in the flood. And not only that, that the earth is only 6,000 years old compared to like some medieval math. But let's go.
So instead of questioning biblical history, it makes more sense to question Egyptian history.
Why not question both? Why not question both and look for the evidence for both? If there's no evidence for biblical history, then biblical history is wrong. But it's the whole, no, what I believe is right. So I'm going to question reality. That is literally what this is doing. The history, the freaking time frame that are listed from Egypt, the Egyptian chronological history, all of this information, comparable records with other societies along with Egypt. Comparable society records that happened with Samaria, the Samaria area, with the history of Egypt. No, because the Bible said. But let's go.
Is Egyptian history really accurate? Well, according to an award-winning documentary called Patterns of Evidence, The Exodus, some scholars believe that Egyptian history has been dated incorrectly and needs a major adjustment. Experts like John Bimson and David Roll believe that Egyptian history needs to move forward on the timeline by about 200 years. And the documentary shows some...
So when it doesn't, where our science, where evidence doesn't meet where our made-up science needs to go, then we need to change reality. What evidence do you have besides the Bible says that we should change reality to fit what you're saying? What evidence do you have other than that? If it's other than, well, we have this date of this king, we have this date of this, of this person ruling here, this battle, these people happened, then why change that? If we have that evidence, no, because God did it, because God did a flood, we need to change Egyptian history. But Sam the Sham had 60 groups, had the groups in the 60s calling pharaohs, yeah.
Compelling evidence supporting this claim. And when you correct the inaccuracies on the Egyptian timeline, then all of a sudden Egyptian history lines up perfectly with the events of the Exodus. This documentary is the winner of 13 Film Festival Awards.
So, because it won 13 film awards, doesn't make it true. Oh my God, like God of War. Christopher Judge just won Actor of the Year for Ragnarok. Does that make it true that, he was that Kratos existed? That Odin was an ass? Or even in regular Norse mythology, Odin is not a nice guy. But Thor's around? Like, a film or a game or any piece of media winning an award, that doesn't make it true. There are horror films that are blatantly false that win awards. That doesn't make them true. But let's continue.
And was the #1 best-selling documentary on Walmart and Amazon for 2 weeks in a row. It's also available on iTunes and on Netflix.
Walmart and Amazon, I fucking died. Walmart and Amazon, they are the standards of actual true researched material. Because at Popular fantasies don't exist. But sure, let's go.
Now, if these experts are correct, that Egyptian history needs to move forward on the timeline by 200 years, then this would mean that the pyramids would not have been built about 2550 BC.
But see, that's the thing. You just caught this. You just caught what happened. If these experts are correct, what are they experts in? What are the fields that they study? What proof do they have other than God did it? I'm sorry. What proof do they have? But let's go.
But rather, they would have been built about 200 years after that, about 2350 BC, making the pyramids contemporary with the flood in Noah's day.
So, how many people were supposed to be around during the time of Egypt to build pyramids? Like, these are engineering feats based on the tools that we have now that will take hundreds, maybe thousands of people. You're telling me that after Noah's grandson got off the ark, after a worldwide catastrophe where everything was wiped out, including animals, and we're not going to talk about how 2 animals are not going to repopulate a species. We're not going to talk about that because science, right? But also, it's going to be enough people inbred, to actually build, to probably get tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of artisans, not just people, tens of thousands of artisans to build pyramids, because the pyramids actually weren't built by slaves. They were, yes, some of them were indentured workers, but they were actually artisans trained in building. They took all that expertise from the Tower of Babel and just moved it over in 2 days. Because not only did the artisans do it, these are artisans that spent their time doing art. There were enough people to farm and support leadership and support just the economy and stuff like that. Because reasons. That's just how it happens, right? But let's continue.
So that solves the problem, right? Well, no, it doesn't, because that doesn't leave any time for the Tower of Babel event to have taken place. Also, the Great Pyramids of Giza are not the oldest pyramids. The Step Pyramid at Saqqara is the very first Egyptian pyramid ever built.
So now you have to realize, yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Not only were there the Great Pyramids, there was a Step Pyramid, it was the Bent Pyramid. It was a whole thing. They didn't just pop out. It was like, yeah, we need to have the Great Pyramid Plateau at Giza. No, like there were other things that happened in that time frame. And not only that, let's just be honest with you. He even said it. Well, the Tower of Babel had to take place too. So man, these people just running around like speed racing throughout the Middle East to just be like, yeah, we need to build a building here, build it here, build it here. Yeah, okay. And wait a minute. That tower was gonna get up high. Shouldn't like Yahweh would have came down and smashed it because the tower was getting up high and shit? I'm just saying. Let's go.
And it predates the Great Pyramids of Giza by about 100 years, which would place the Step Pyramid at about 2450 BC.
So not only do you have to move the Great Pyramids construction by 200 years, now you got another 100 years for the Step Pyramid. Okay, I see how it goes.
Which still predates the flood by about 100 years. So you see, even when you correct the inaccuracies on the Egyptian timeline so that it lines up with the events of the Exodus, that still doesn't solve the problem. The pyramids still predate the flood, which means that the only option left over is you have to question the biblical timeline.
Great Scott.
I know, this is heavy.
Exactly.
Now, that's not to say that you should question biblical authority.
Oh, wait. You shouldn't question biblical authority because, the Bible is the true and accurate word of God because reasons, that's what happens. The Bible is a true and accurate word of God. Because reasons and yeah, that's something that happens. That's something that really, really happens. But yeah, no. Let's go. Let's go. Come back here.
But rather, is the timeline presented by creation scientists really even biblical at all?
No,
Well,
it's
according
not.
to the Greek Septuagint,
Because there's no creation scientists. These are people that literally say, hey, I need a source. I need a source.
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
it's not. What do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. You see, in a previous video that I made called How Long Were the Israelites in Egypt, I pointed out the fact that modern Bible translations are translated from the Hebrew Masoretic text, which is not the original Hebrew, but rather it's a copy of the Hebrew called the...
Okay, wow, can I please see your source? Can I please see your source? No, can I please see your source? I need to see it. Okay, all right, let's go. Don't forget Racer X, Chim is right.
the Leningrad Codex, which was copied in the 11th century AD. But the Greek Septuagint was translated more than 1,000 years before that in 250 BC and would not have been translated from the Hebrew Masoretic, but rather it would have been translated from a different copy of the Hebrew, an older copy which is no longer around today. The Samaritan Pentateuch also predates the Masoretic text and would also have referenced an older copy of the Hebrew. The same is true of the writings of Flavius Josephus and of Paul the Apostle. And according to
So when you not only are they have to bend history and reality to fit their narrative of, well, maybe Egyptian history and Egyptologists who base their careers on this, not only are they wrong because, reasons, but now I have to also bend and break my own theology to fit this, even though the answer is staring you right in the fucking face. Your whole idea about it is wrong. There was no great flood. The Tower of Babel didn't happen. Egyptologists, people who put their whole life and career on the line to come up with different hypotheses and theories and put years, not just hours, but years of work into their different fields. They're not lying. It's, well, I need to break and bend my theory to fit what I needed to do. Go right to the source and ask the horse. He'll give you his answer in due recourse.
These four
Of
witnesses,
course.
the original Hebrew text said that the Israelites were in Egypt and Canaan for 430 years. And that's the way that Exodus 12:40 was written in the original Hebrew. But more than 1,000 years later, when the Hebrew Masoretic text was copied, that phrase, and Canaan, was dropped out of the text. And since all of our Bibles are translated from this corrupted copy of the Hebrew, then all...
So if you, my friend, I think this is Nathan H83. If you have a brand new theory, if you have a brand new piece of information that will turn the scholarship of not just Egyptology, but the Bible in general upside down by absolutely proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Egyptologists are wrong and we have proof of the time frame of the flood, where is your peer review? Where is your review of this that you've brought to any seminary? Where is that at? Please tell me where you have shown that, hey, you actually have proof other than just I'm spouting stuff on the internet.
All of our Bibles say that the Israelites were in Egypt for 430 years, which is incorrect and mathematically impossible. The truth is,
it's impossible based on the idea that Egypt didn't experience the flood, which it didn't. Like, I don't think you really realize that. It's like Elon Musk thinking that he's an actual good CEO. Like, dog, if everything you touch goes to crap, you ain't a good CEO. And if your theory has no evidence, my guy, your theory is not good.
they were in Egypt for only half that time for 215 years. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then I suggest you watch this video.
So you don't have a source. You just have because I made it up. You don't have a source. You just have because I made it up, man. That's not a source. When you actually have to prove your video by showing another video, why don't you just say that, hey, this is my evidence that I have, and the evidence I have is this. So you would actually show that, yo, I'm right about this. But no, you're not going to do that because your source is, I made it up, and here's another video about it. That's what your source is. But let's go. Oh, shit. I am so close. Let's go.
First. Now, what I didn't explain in this video is the fact that this is not the only thing that the Masoretic text has dropped out. There are other things the Masoretic text has dropped out, causing major distortions in the biblical timeline, and these distortions make it seem like the pyramids were built before the flood. Let me explain.
I guess Vincent Bono as King Tut has the answer to Anonymous. I know, right?
You see, in Genesis chapter 11, it gives a genealogy from Shem all the way down to Abram, and it says how old each person was when their son was born. So it says that Arphaxad was 35 when his son was born, and Shelah was 30 when his son was born. But in the Greek Septuagint, it says that Arphaxad was 135, and it says that Shelah was 130.
Yeah, because we know people live to 135 and 130. And notice that they all just give the line of men, never women. I mean, of course, if, you know, a lot of these guys are just having sex with their sisters or cousins or aunts because inbreeding, then, you know, that's the thing, right? But let's go.
The Greek Septuagint has an extra 100 years on those ages. In the 6 generations from Arphaxad down to Serug, the Hebrew Masoretic text says that they were in their 30s when their son was born. But the Greek Septuagint says that they were in their 130s.
So, is he going to actually mention the fact that in a lot of ways that you get the fact that they did a base 60 in a lot of cases for the, you know, counting of days, and sometimes these were wildly inaccurate? I'm just saying, like, We literally know that their counting system wasn't base 10. It was actually base 60 and 12. But you know, reasons, right? Let's go. Ugh, my fault.
The Greek Septuagint has an extra 100 years on each one of those ages. But it's not just the Greek Septuagint. The Samaritan Pentateuch includes those extra 100 years, and so does Flavius Josephus. Now remember, the Bible says by the mouth of...
See, this is what I'm talking about. So, I mean, like, I hate to do it like this, but there are people in QAnon that say certain stupid stuff. Okay, I'm getting ahead of the point. Let them go.
Of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word shall be established. Well, we've got 3 witnesses here that are all in 100% agreement.
Like I was saying, there are people in QAnon that believe, like, Trump was going to rise to ascend to the office of president 3 months ago. That they said it. Like, do you really want to go by that? Oh, how about this? Besides, since we're doing ad populum fallacies and you only need 2 or 3. Joe's in the chat. Hey, Joe, can you tell me, did you know Jesus exist? Do you think that Jesus exists, dog? Because I can actually say I don't think Jesus exists. That'd be 2 people. If he says no, he says no, I say no. That's 2 people. Do you really want to go by that? I'm not talking about Jesus. Exactly. I know you was gonna go. Oh God. Oh shit. But let's go.
That the original Hebrew text included those extra 100 years on those ages from Arphaxad down to Sarug. And we already know that these 3 bear witness that the original Hebrew text included that phrase, and Canaan, when the Masoretic text has dropped it out. Now let me explain why I think that these extra 100 years belong, and it has nothing to do with the pyramids, but rather...
It's because you wanted to fit your you wanted to fit your you wanted to fit your theory. You wanted to make it seem like what you're saying is true and factual. That's why. Oh God. And he's really ripped. Mother, hush your mouth. I'm talking about Jesus.
It has to do with the Bible itself. You see, if you take these ages that are in the Hebrew Masoretic text and you plot these on a chart, then you'll notice something really strange. You'll notice that Shem would have outlived almost all of his sons and grandsons.
Yes, because he lived to like 600. Exactly. He lived to 600 because reasons. Yes, because humans live to 600 and they complain about no other. Like, are you real? Like, here's my biggest thing, right? And I know this is taking forever. Why? Why is it that these people clearly have no issue with their heroes in the Bible because they're heroes, demigods, living to 600 years. But when they say there was Zeus or Ra or, Ishtar, that no, they couldn't exist. What, like literally, you're doing magical thinking. You're literally doing magical thinking. But no, my magical thinking outweighs your magical thinking. But let's go.
Down to the 8th generation. Now, I've heard it said before that the loss of a child is considered to be the worst possible grief.
You're gonna be all right.
Wait, what? Wait, what? Like, okay, I just don't know, man. Why would you? And by the way, that's actually the picture in the thumbnail. This is actually the picture in the thumbnail that he decided to go with, or whoever re-uploaded this decided to go with, because reasons. I know I make some crazy thumbnails, but that's an interesting thumbnail. I just don't know. I just don't know. Why is everybody beating on me? Whew. Oh. That's something that happens. I've never played this part. But let's go. Mel Gibson, the Patriot. No! Mel Gibson, the Patriot. When Christians realize that their fairy tales are just made up like everybody else's. Save that. All right, let's go.
Well, if this is really true, that the loss of a child is the worst possible grief, well then Shem must have gone through a whole lot of grief. Because according to the
No! Stop! Don't use this because you're made it the fuck up. Like, okay, here. Serious time. Why did he have to bring this point up? There are people who have not only lost children, and like, yeah, of course, like, that's something hard. And losing loved ones, just in general, parents, children, in general, is hard. Fucking siblings is hard. Don't just throw this shit in there to make it a point like he couldn't have actually lost kids because of my made up fucking story. That is so fucking stupid. Sugar tits, yeah, I know. Anyway.
Hebrew Masoretic text, Shem would have witnessed the death of his son, he would have witnessed the death of his grandson, he would have witnessed the death of his great-great-grandson, his great-great-great-grandson, his great-great-great-great-grandson, his great-great-great-great-great-grandson, and his great-great-great-great-great-grandson.
This is stupid. This is really, really stupid. You're making this point just to make a point of like, oh, look, he all of these people would have died because reasons, and like, that's not how this works, kid. You can tell this is a kid. You can just tell by the who's making this point is a kid who's never had a child in his life. But let's go.
Now, why would God put Shem through so much grief? And what's causing this anyway?
Wait. Did he just ask why would Yahweh, who genocided the planet, put somebody through? Like, what about the people that he knew that before the flood, that died before the flood? Like, I'm sorry, to somebody that just watched a genocide happen throughout the world, that would have just been like Tuesday to him. Like, am I making it up? Am I just like, wait, like, oh, my kid died. Well, like, not only did my kid die, but some friends that I had before the flood died. A lot of other people died. Like, but my kid died. Oh, like, no, you can tell this person has never actually lost loved ones. If you just think like, oh, sure, just my kid, like, dude, you have not. What type of charm life have you led that, you know, when people die, you just like, oh well, yeah, let's use that as a way of just saying like, oh, that's just a bad thing. It's just a bad thing. Even though I saw a genocide, you know, just my kid died. That's it. He's going to include the clip where, no, did this kid ever hear the Jim Carroll band saying, "These ain't these are the people who died"?
I mean, I understand that Shem lived before the flood, but why would that make him like a Superman after the flood, outliving almost all of his sons and grandsons down to the 8th generation?
Because he didn't exist. I try not to be cruel with this, but this is just like leading me to that whole thing, like, he didn't exist. But let's go.
That doesn't really make a lot of sense. But according to these three witnesses, the original Hebrew text included an extra 100 years on those ages from Arphaxad down to Sarug. And when you put those extra 100 years back onto those ages, and you plot the rest of this chart according to the ages that are in the Greek Septuagint, then all of a sudden everything makes perfect sense. Shem died before his son, Arphaxad died.
But it doesn't look by much. It doesn't look by much Oh my God. Why? Why? I don't get it. Like for a religion that says all about life and afterlife, it showed us specialize in wanting to plot out deaths and stuff. Wow. Okay. All right. Let's go.
Before his son. Sheila died before his son. Each generation died in succession, one after the other, which is normal for a genealogy.
But it's not though. It is not though. Like we're talking about people before the advent of science and medicine, where the reason why they had to have so many kids is because so many of them died. We're talking about people before the advent of modern technology, where there would just be famines. There was just like famine. The rain didn't come this year. We didn't grow enough crops, so famine. Like, these are things that actually happen to not just one or two people, but to thousands of people, tens of thousands of people. Notice I didn't say millions because it wasn't that many people around in a given time in one large area, though. Like, I say that. But, like, I don't get this. Like, they think it's like they whole thing is that human beings have gradually, and you'll get like places like Answer in Genesis say this, where human beings just double in populations at any given moment, at any given time. And that's not a thing that happened. That's not a reality that the human population doubles or triples in a set period of time. It's not, because, we have things called diseases. And this is before we actually had, vaccines, medicines, proper prenatal care, proper postnatal care. People died a lot before the advent of modern medicine. But let's go.
Any normal child with average intelligence who reads the genealogy in Genesis 11 is going to get the impression that the fathers were dying before the sons. That's the way of life.
I have a few people that can say, no, that's not the way of life all the time. You don't... Okay, let's go.
That's the impression that the scriptures give. And according to these three witnesses...
I mean, like, goddamn, you got to understand something. You have to live the charmed life to believe that everything happens in some sort of order, in some sort of way, that, that there aren't parents that lose their children. You have to live a life of extreme privilege. And I understand I'm using the word privilege for a lot of these people to think that, oh no, it just happens normally. And that's how normal things happen. Sure, let's go.
That's exactly the way that it happened.
Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think, McFly, think.
And so according to these three witnesses and a little common sense, the original Hebrew text...
Of course they say common sense. Common sense isn't common, you dumb fuck. All right, let's go.
Included an extra 100 years on those ages from Arphaxad down to Sarug. But more than 1,000 years later, when the Hebrew Masoretic text was copied, those extra 100 years were dropped off of those ages.
Erased from existence.
And since all of our Bibles are translated from this corrupted copy of the Hebrew, then all of our Bibles are missing those extra 100 years.
You would think whole omnipotent, omniscient, being would know that there's been a translation error in the way that his words have been handed down to disprove certain parts of it. As a whole omnipotent being would actually say, like, maybe I shouldn't actually put it in a way that people can actually misinterpret it or misrepresent it, or just mistranslate it. I'm just saying, like, maybe an omnipotent being would actually just say, you know what, why don't I just appear to everybody and prove it in the way that they would understand? I don't know. But it's almost as if people just made it up. But let's go.
which has grossly distorted our understanding of the biblical timeline.
Obviously, the time continuum has been disrupted, creating this new temporal event sequence resulting in this alternate reality.
English, Doc.
Now, creation scientists
Wait. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh wow. Creation scientist shows a picture of Kent Hovind. You know, the tax fraud. Kent Hovind, the convicted criminal, the convicted felon. Kent Hovind, the unapologetic convicted felon. You know, Kent Hovind, the, multi-divorce, unapologetic, convicted felon. You know, Kent Hovind, that person. Because Kent Hovind is a trusted source of information, even though he lies about everything. But let's go.
Just like Kent Hovind, have put together a longevity chart from Adam to Joseph. And in this chart, he has Shem outliving almost all of his sons and grandsons, and he says that Shem would have known Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Oh, God. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I can say about Kent Hovind that I haven't said already. What did he have, like greenhouse earth? How there was an extra layer of water around the earth that it melted, and that's what the flood came from. The lead singer of the Prison Soap Droppers. Oh God, let's go.
You won't notice this reading your Bible either, but when you graph out the dates, it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. Noah's son Shem lived long enough after the flood to know Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You know, if you're 130, but you know a 600-year-old that lives around the corner, you just don't feel so old anymore.
Yeah, because there were 130-year-olds. Because reasons. Yeah, of course, there were 130 years olds. Yeah, sure. You guys have to help me out with that one. I don't understand that one. 130-year-olds, guys. 130-year-olds. But let's go.
But the truth is, Shem died about 500 years before Abraham was even born. Shem could not have personally known Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which explains the lack of dialogue between them. Answers in Genesis made a book about...
Or, how about this? The story was made the F up. Like, why can't that be? Look, I understand, a lot of people misunderstand William of Occam's, logical, thing. Shan, what about Curly and Joe? Yeah. What about this, right? What about this? The explanation that takes the least amount of assumptions tends to be the more correct one. How about this? The Bible is just made up. I know, right? That takes a least amount of assumptions. Oh, it's just myths and stories. But no, we have to move this timeline here. We have to move this timeline there. Okay. Yeah, sure, let's go.
Noah's Ark. And in that book, they have a timeline. And in that timeline, they have Shem dying after the birth of Abraham. Sorry, but that's not correct. Shem did not die after the birth of Abraham.
These are people that make up different headcanons. I'm in the anime community in my comics, obviously, but these are the people that make up different headcanons for their favorite Marvel character or their favorite anime character. Nuh-uh, Superman can beat Wonder Woman because he's Superman, and this Superman can beat that Superman, and I know. All right, let's go.
Shem died about 500 years before the birth of Abraham. Answers in Genesis also gets it wrong.
Let them fight. This is definitely a let them fight moment. But let's go.
When creation scientists say that the flood occurred about 2350 BC, they're basing this primarily upon the calculations of James Ussher. But James Ussher based his calculations upon the genealogies that are in the Hebrew Masoretic.
What are you basing your calculations on, my man? It seems like you're making the calculations based on I just made it the F up. Do you have any biblical sources other than what you say these three people says? That's all that it seems like is happening to me. It seems like it's just like I want it to be this way, so it has to be this way. But let's go.
Text. But according to these three witnesses, the original Hebrew text included an extra 100 years.
See? It just came back to, I want to use these three people. So these three people are right. And because these three people are right, then yeah, anything else, it's wrong.
On those ages from Arphaxad down to Sarug. And when you put an extra 100 years back onto 6 generations, then that adds an extra 600 years of history. In fact, there's also an issue with the 7th generation, with the age of Nahor. The Hebrew Masoretic text says that Nahor was 29
Nahor. No, okay, let's go.
years old when his son was born, but the Greek Septuagint says that he was 79. The Samaritan Pentateuch also agrees that he was 79, whereas Flavius Josephus never specifies. Well, that's at least 2 witnesses right there. So take 79 and subtract 29, and that's an extra 50 years of history.
It's almost as if they're making these numbers up. I'm just saying, like, okay, let's go.
Meaning that the original Hebrew text included an extra 650 years of history, which means that the flood would not have occurred about 2350 BC, but rather it would have occurred about 650 years before that, about 3000 BC.
But that doesn't go along with creation scientist numbers that they actually gave. Like, outside of just like I've adding names and numbers together, this is what I mean, like, not that they're going to bring out something like radiocarbon dating or things of that nature. Now they're going to bring out archaeology, but they're just going to say, because I want these names and numbers to add up to this is what it is. Oh, yeah, of course. No, you don't get it. By saying this part, that they need to move the flood back and move the pyramids up, it fits into Nathan's whole calculation somehow. I don't know. This is just like conjecture that can't stand up to Occam's razor. But let's go.
Great Scott! Now I may have seriously altered history.
And so if the flood occurred about 3000 BC, and the step pyramid at Saqqara was built about 2450 BC, well then there's no legitimate reason to be looking for water damage on the pyramids. The pyramids were not submerged in the floodwaters.
Because there was just no floodwaters. You are literally making up a way of saying that, hey, I need this time to fit right, and so this is how it works. Versus just actually saying that maybe this story is metaphorical, because Lord knows that it can't be a metaphorical study about the evils of unrestricted, like, gluttony, lust, or hatred, to tell people that, hey, if you do something wrong, a deity may actually not have like it, and they may destroy the world. No. It has to be literal, because Christians have no imagination other than the imagination they need to make sure that their story stays true and real in their whole feelings. And yeah, of course, because reasons. This is all of a because reason story, because I need to actually fit what I need to in order to make my cognitive dissonance go away. I can't do it anymore. I thought I was gonna be able to finish this video, but I made 12 minutes in. It makes no sense. He is literally bending time and space in his whole explanation to fit that I needed to fit this way. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'm
Done.
Yeah. So I'm gonna cut this. Balls, that's all. I'm gonna cut this segment right here, and we're just gonna move on to something different, because it just makes no sense to me. It's done. Just done. Like, share, and subscribe, and all that other good stuff.